Welcome. This is Panic Consulting's ArcGIS workshop, and I'm Frank Conkling. And for this workshop, we're going to take a look at the just newly released ArcGIS Pro. And as you can tell from the title, it is going to be a quick look. So this is not going to be super intensive, but in fact, we're going to go over some of the initial changes on here. The biggest decision is whether or not you should make that transition now or whether you hold off for a while. And then we're going to go a little bit into some of the edit tools, and maybe we'll show some of the changes that have occurred in ArcGIS Pro as it relates to parcel fabric, which is always our favorite subject. So let's go ahead and start. Before we do, I want to remind everybody who we are. This is Panic Consulting. You go ahead and go out to our website and find out a little bit more about us, how long we've been around, what we do, sort of our overall story, who we are, what we do, why we do it, that sort of thing. If you look at the events page on our website, you'll see upcoming events, including, if you look at the events page now, you'll see that Brian Kelly and I are going to be out in San Diego next week at the ESRI User Conference. And so if you're out there, go ahead and use the event app and reach out to us and see if we can get together and talk for a little while. But the events page is where you'll see a calendar view of all of the workshops that are coming up. If you look like something different, you can go to the workshop page, and there's a listing there, which will list all of the workshops individually, give you some more information about them, including past workshops. And then finally, we do have a YouTube page on which all of the recordings are posted. They are posted as quickly as we can after we record it here. And we've got somewhere around 65 or 70 different workshops that are posted up there, covering quite a number of topics, everything from initial ArcGIS Pro, setting it up, to things like story maps and arcade rules and arcade and those sorts of things. So there's there's a good variety there. So hopefully you go out there and look at it. By the way, if you go to the workshop page here, and if you go to the very bottom of the workshop page, there's actually a registration link that can get you to the get you signed up for our monthly newsletter, in which case you get every month you get the links to actually contact and connect up live with us. And everyone who's here, I thank you for being here. Obviously, you've all done it before. So, by the way, let's mention right now, while we are live, anything that I'm going over that you want to make a comment on, or if you have a specific question or want something demonstrated, go ahead over to the chat window. Chris with Panda is actually moderating that, and he'll interrupt me or stop me from speaking for a while, and we'll make sure that we take care of it for you. By the way, this is our YouTube page. It shows you some of the things that are up there right now. So let's go ahead and talk about ArcGIS Pro 3.0. And there really is a decision that you have to make, because before you even think about downloading and installing it, I want to go in and point you to a couple of different blog posts that have been up here. Corey Kramer with ESRI just put one out there a couple months ago called "Get Ready for ArcGIS Pro 3.0." This is probably one of the better ones to go and look at to give you a general feel for what's going on. The bottom line is that ArcGIS Pro 3.0 is a completely new code base. It's been rewritten, and it utilizes in Microsoft's .NET 6.0. And in order to go and run it, you need to install .NET 6.0 on your computer. But in addition, matter of fact, this is what Corey is saying right here. .NET 6.0 runtime for 64-bit operating systems. So you need to install that, and that's often a little bit daunting, but just know that there is a link in here, matter of fact, a download site that will bring you over to this page for .NET. And then you just have to identify which one you're actually going to do. And for the most part, you're going to want to go to the Windows x64. Some of us are running different variations on it. For example, here at Panda, we actually are running ARM64 variations of Windows. I'm actually running Windows 11 on an ARM Macintosh laptop right now is what you're looking at. But make sure you upgrade to .NET 6. That's critical for that. And then Corey goes and does a great job about what the differences are and what it actually means for you as you go on here. And the fact of the matter is, and you need to reiterate this, it's a major release. It's a major update. Previously, if you were at 2.1 or 2.2 or 2.6, you could always upgrade, and there wasn't any major changes. There were new functionality that was introduced on there, but it didn't break anything. It didn't make such a dramatic change that you were stopped from doing other things. Well, the thing you want to be aware of with 3.0 is that with 3.0, internally, there's a completely different code base there. Rather than using, for example, with the project files and such, rather than using XML coding, they are now using JSON coding, which means simplistically that if you open up a project file and you save it in ArcGIS 3.0, you can never read it in 2.x. ArcGIS Pro 2.x, you cannot read it anymore. You can read it 2.9 in 3. So you can go from 2 to 3, but you can't go from 3 backwards again. And that impacts not just project files. When you go down here and look at this, you'll also see, and maybe I should go over here to what's new. This is another one that a couple people have put up about what's new in here. Shows some of the functionality and some of the issues about backward compatibility, just sort of to tell you, you want to be aware of it. Heather just put up a question. Chris, sorry, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Mm-hmm. Can ArcGIS 2.9 and 3.0 exist beside each other on a system? Or do you have to be running one or the other? Unfortunately, they cannot exist on the same system. It will overwrite 2.x when you go and install 3. So they cannot be installed on the same operating system. Now, one of the things that we do here at Panda is we use virtual machines. And if you have access to virtual machines, you can definitely set up one virtual machine with 2.9 on it, another virtual machine with 3.0, so you can go back and forth and experiment. But you want to be aware of things such as if you save a project file, you can't go backwards with it. But there's more important things. And I'll go down here just to see, I think in here, nope, this is the one here, and the migrate from 2.0, backwards compatibility, what you want to watch out for, working between general recommendations. So project files are not backward compatible. Can be opened with 2. Documents, map layers, layer files cannot be opened with 2 once they are created and saved with 3.0. Style, web styles can be downgraded to earlier versions. They can be published. Layouts, all right, are stored differently at 3.0, so they are not backward compatible. Sharing web services are, however, here's a kicker you want to be aware of. Data sets created in 3 may not be compatible with earlier versions. All right, so you want to look specifically. There's a section here on client and geodatabase compatibilities. Here's one that really, for us, because we do a lot of work with attribute rules created in 3 are not compatible with 2. So you want to be aware of this as you're going through. Data types, for example, annotation, if it's created in 3, it doesn't work in 2. Same way with if it's created in 2, it doesn't work in ArcMap. So you want to be aware of that. Geocoding, data management, and there's differences in the Python being used. So bottom line on this is, and this is just a caution, if you are a small organization, homogeneous in sort of how quickly you've changed into Pro, so you're the only one working, or there's only a couple people working in Pro, and you're all going to move to 3 at the same time, do it. There's some really nice things in there. But if you're working in an organization in which you're sort of out on the cutting edge, and you've got some people that are just moving to Pro, and they're at 2.9 maybe, or 2.8, and then you've still got other people that are working in ArcMap, don't go to 3 yet. Stay at 2 and deal with the incompatibilities between ArcMap and Pro, but just be aware of it. That's sort of the big warning we want to have right now. Hold off. I don't think there's going to be any real ability, and I haven't heard any discussion yet on whether or not you can do a save as, because it is such a different structure inside. But I think they're going to work out sort of how do you make this transition a little bit smoother in later releases of 3.1, 3.2, those sorts of things in here. But again, there are some really nice things with ArcGIS Pro 3.0. All right. So with that, just that one bit of caution, you just want to be aware of that. If you can, definitely consider moving forward into it. There's some really nice things on here, and move forward. Will,
another question.
Yeah, Will is saying, are feature classes created with 3.0 readable by ArcMap 8.1? The answer is yes, but again, there's a caveat. Yes, a simple feature class with nothing else on it. No attribute rules, topologies, none of the newer functionality in Pro is still readable. If you create a shapefile in 3.0, you can still read it in ArcMap. If you create a geodatabase and you create a feature class with 3, you can still read it in ArcMap as long as you don't put any of this new functionality on it. You keep it as bare bones as possible. But so you just want to watch out for it. And again, highly recommend you go to some of these, go out and do a Google search and look at some of the things that Esri has posted, especially that transitioning from 2 to 3, when it talks about some of the geodatabase compatibilities and incompatibilities. Just make sure you check it out before you make that full jump over there. All right. Okay, so let's start with a simple one. There has been some changes in the interface. The interface is actually written not for Windows 10, but the actual interface, it looks slightly different because it's actually written for a Windows 11 on here. And you'll see on the startup page, they've looked at how things are being done here, what we're actually using, what we're not using, and they've redone a lot of it, tried to make it simpler for us, given us larger areas, other ways that we can set it. Functionality is still the same, but for example, here's the home page in which we can start a new map and create a map, new catalog, global scene, local scene, or we can start without a template. These are all the same. The buttons just look a little bit different on here. The recent projects, the same way, allow us to go and pin and unpin. We can right click and we can remove it. We can clear all the recent projects if we want, which is a nice one. I wish we had that earlier in the 2.0s, but that's nice sort of evolutionary improvements on here. They do have the learning resources now, and they've put them over on a separate page on everything you want to know about learning, everything from quick starts to creating a project, exploring data, symbolizing, making a layout, using geoprocessing tools, to, for example, the what's new help will actually go and pull up your help file and show you everything about what's new inside of here. By the way, there is in fact two different ways in ArcGIS Pro you can get help. One is an internal help file, which is what I've got set up here on my setting. The other one is calling out to the website and actually using the web help. The web help is actually updated a little bit quicker than this internal release help is. So you might want to change it to there. So that's this page here. Again, it mostly is just a configuration and how things are done in here. There is the Pro Migration Guide that's helpful for you. There's the for ArcMap users that are very helpful. So I think they've done a good job on this. Over on the settings, if you go to the settings, it actually brings you over to the normal options and settings inside of here. Chris, did you say, so does the cover page above show what version of Pro the project was made in? So let's go back here. Sorry. So because we don't have any projects in here right now, it does not show what it's been, what version it was made in. However, let me go and do this. When I go to open up another project, and if I go in here and let's go down here and go to, yeah, just go to another county here. I've got a project here. Here's what will happen. This was a 3, sorry. Let me go in and open up one for 2. Sorry about that. So when I open up one with 3, it will go and tell me that it was opened. Open up a different one. This one here should be a 2.x, and it should give me a warning, and it's not giving me a warning on here. It should give me a warning saying that it was opened previously and that it will convert it and save it. I do notice that L. Pierce says on here that often he'll take the 2.9 and save it to a new one named 3 before I open up a project. That's a great idea. Matter of fact, you'll actually notice on some of these when I go in here and I go to some of my conversions, for example, here you'll see I've got them saved out in 2 different versions. One is 2.0, one is in 3.0, and that way I can tell the difference between them. I do want to make sure that I'm aware that I can't go in there and create attribute rules in 3 and make sure that they are acceptable in 2. I can have an existing attribute rule in 2 and it runs in 3, but I have to be careful as soon as I start manipulating with the structure at all. So that's a great idea, is how to go and do it. How did you know that it was a 3.0? In fact, there is a warning when you open up an earlier one. It says it was saved with an earlier version, and it will convert it. If you go to save it, it will also go and give you a warning that it's going to overwrite it and it's going to go and be saved in a 3. So there is some warnings with that when you open and when you save them. So L. Pierce again, question would be importing an MXD to Pro. Are there versions of MXDs that do not import? Currently, is that might have spatial analyst model builder models included on there. I haven't tried that.
Just so you know, L. Pierce's first name is Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. It's a very meaningful question. I have not tried any maps not tried any ARC maps, tried opening them and bringing them in if they have the spatial analyst extension. So I can't tell you specifically whether they fail or not, or what sort of errors you might have it. So best I would say is try it. See if that's going to cause any problems on there. You might check on that though to see if in fact the spatial analyst license has been turned on for Pro, with whether or not you've got it with additional licensing. So that might help. Yeah. Okay. So going back here again, they've made some nice improvements inside of the startup page and the editing components on it. So that's really nice improvements. I haven't come across any real changes in the options yet, but as we explore more, we'll see that. So let's talk about, besides the interface of that startup page, there's other interface differences. One of them, and you'll note here, I and a lot of people here at Panic Consulting love creating extensions and customizing the quick access toolbar. All right. And if your toolbar gets too long inside of ArcGIS Pro 2.9, you can't have it up top here because it cuts it off. This area here overwrites it, and you can't see everything on there. So we wind up tending to go and put that quick access toolbar below the ribbon. Well, in 3.0, and this is a tiny thing, but it's those tiny things make a difference. In 3.0, when we show it above, you'll note it actually moves all of this over so that we can now have that quick access toolbar that's customized up on top still. I personally get used to it down below, but yeah, they have recognized and resized this as we're going on here. Tiny little change, but it makes a difference. So there is one change that I absolutely love, one that may cause me to start using 3.0 more often than what I thought I might use initially. So just to let you know, I'm editing right now. One of the issues I have with the ArcGIS Pro interface, and I actually reached out to them to try to get them to do this, is that if I go into a tool and that tool winds up becoming sort of stuck there. So if I go and do an edit, especially things like edit vertices and some of the other functionality, it gets stuck on that tool. Well, now, if I go up here to the back or to the cancel arrow, what will happen is that it actually cancels that tool and gets you off of it. So it doesn't necessarily keep going and modifying it. So for example, if I've got a delete function in here, all right, and I want to go and do a delete on here, by default, if I go in here and select something else, it would have gone and just started deleting that new line and such. But now if I go and use this cancel, it actually stops it. So when I move and click on another feature, it's not going to immediately start up that command again. Tiny change, but them refining this interface as they move forward, it's something that they've really got and understand. Here's the way we're actually using this now.
Frank, when you just said delete, did you mean divide?
I'm sorry, did I say delete? I actually meant, on this case, it was the divide command. But yeah, any of the commands that are sort of persistent, things like the explode command and update COGO commands, these are all persistent commands. And if you go and click on the cancel, which is the back button on it, it will actually go and cancel that command and release that tool, so you won't be reusing it again on there. So yeah, sorry if I said delete instead of that. So let's go and look at another change in here. And so let's go to a line, and I have a line attached here. Actually, I have a couple lines here. Let's just go and only select one line. And if I go to delete, excuse me, I'm saying that again. If I go to the divide command on here, the divide command, one of the nice changes that they have here is that previously, if we had, and this is what parcel mappers do a lot, is we might have a subdivision boundary line that we've moved over to our lot layer, and we want to go and split this up. We want to divide this by some varying commands in here, varying distances in here, and we would often use this command here. So in this case, if you look, there's been a change in the interface. It actually has not just the distance, but also how many times I want to repeat that. So in this case, I can go and do 50, and I can tell it to do that 5 times. And then I can click and do 25 once, and I can do 45 3 times. So it allows you to go and set repeating varying lengths in here, and it will show you the legs, how many times. Really, really nice in here, what they've done on this. I really like this, and that works in any of these, any simple feature classes. It's not just the parcel fabric that this works in. This is the way they've modified the divide tool to way we as editors and mappers use it a lot. This is a nice one, really nice one. So let's look at that. In ArcMap, you could identify several features by using the shift and box. To do for identify in Pro, the finger only allows you to point. Is it identify improved in Pro? So let's do this. I think what we're talking about here is the fact that there is the identify tool, which has now been replaced by the Explore tool, right? The Explore tool only will work for one. I've got my Explore turned off. Only will work with one. You do that, you do an Explore. And there is no way to go and do more than one, or is there? All right, so what I just did is I just went and held down my control key, and I held down my control key and I drew a rectangle, and it then goes and serves as a marquee and will select everything that's inside of that marquee triangle. So yes, you can do that on here. Getting back to editing, what can we do now? So let me go in here to a clip command, and I'm just going to draw a new polygon. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, and it doesn't matter if it's on the parcel record because I don't have an active record right now, but I have the clip command, and I still have the discard, in which it goes and takes and discards what's inside. And then I have to preserve, but then I also have this new one. This new one says delete everything outside my selected polygon. So if in fact you're doing a clip and you want to exclude, or you want to go and delete everything that's outside what you have selected to sort of minimize or to selectively identify and clip out everything outside that boundary, this new contain command will actually allow you to do that. I'm not going to go do that because that would delete everything outside of here that I've got on here. But in fact, you then have that. So let me go and select what I want to split it out of. That's good. And let's do it on a contain, and it should go and leave this part and completely delete that part there. All right, and so there I am. A nice variation on the tool, something that I think we might use. Obviously, you're not going to use it every day, but every once in a while, you might go and utilize that tool. It's a nice enhancement on here. I actually like that tool on here. Another one that we don't use quite as much, especially as it relates to parcels, is the array tool. The array tool allows me to go and construct an array. Let me go and just create a new and have that selected, and then go do an array of that, and I can tell it above. That way I can also do it on an angle in which I go and rotate everything and set the rotation around at an angle. Possibly for doing buildings and condominiums and things of that sort, but it's, again, they're beginning to really understand more what we do and how we do, and these are some really nice enhancements to the tools. All right, that is a majority, and again, I'm just starting to dig into, even though I was beta testing this, I'm starting to dig into now the documentation and see what really has been put out here and what enhancements have they put in here. And I like this. Those are the ones I've identified so far in editing, pure editing. Let's look at Parcel Fabric though and see what's on there. Here's one of the interesting things in here is that within 2.9, in the table of contents, you would have one Procadaster group. And in that group, you would have the records, and then all the topology would be in that same group. Again, simple little change, but they have taken the records and pulled them out of that group. So you have one for just the records in here for your Parcel Fabric, and another one for all of the topology elements on here. All right, so again, slight interface change on here, minor, but it prevents you from having to open it up and turn those things off, those sorts of things in here. Here's a big one. All right, so, and this works whether it's in the fabric or not, the Traverse tool. The Traverse tool, previously what it would do is when it would start, all right, it would start creating, and every time I would put a course in and type enter, all right, every time I would do that, it would actually go and create that line. The Traverse tool inside of Pro does not use a sketch. It literally creates a feature every time you hit enter. And what was happening, especially when you had web services, is that you would get a lag between because it would not only put that line in, but it would regenerate. Well, now what you can do in here, and some of us are really fast at using the keyboard and transcribing this. Now, if you'll watch, it's not you can see it's actually regenerating here, but it is hyper fast. All right, so it's hyper fast on here as far as the Traverse tool. It's much faster than it used to be on here. So it's great improvement for the speed. They heard us when we were complaining, and which is nice, really nice on here. Another thing is if I go back, another change they've made is that now when I do a new Traverse, I don't necessarily have to go and reset my start. It will retain the start on here. So if I go to new, for example, if I wanted to go and change my connection line or change it from one type of line to the other, it will retain my previous ending point on there when it goes and starts. Another change in the Traverse tool. Here's the other one. Inside of here, we used to have that you could switch between connection lines and traverse lines. I think it proved a little bit too confusing for some people. So now you can only go and create one type of line here. You cannot flip back and forth between templates. One line, one feature template inside it. And if you want to switch it, you have to go to a new line again, but it retains your connection point on there. Yes, sir.
Does Pro 3 have any improvements to trace network?
I wish I could tell you. I don't use a trace network. I don't use linear networks in any way. So I can't, sorry, I can't give you any feedback on that. That's one of the problems of being so specialized. We really know what we work with, but we don't have that general overall component on here. So sorry, you might have to talk to a utility person for that. Sorry. All right. Filtered selection. This one we actually started seeing in 2.9, and this is one that I like a lot. In that, if I have, let's go ahead and select something here. And if I go to update COGO, what I will see is a couple things. I will see this update COGO on here. But if in fact I have a selection of anything and I go to do a geoprocessing tool, all right, and let's look at a geoprocessing tool like calculate field. All right, it automatically will tell me, it's going and doing that, but it will usually tell me that I have a selection and how many records are actually going to be. Well, here, let's go and choose. This is tax lines on here. And what field are we going to go and do this on? Let's see if we can get this to fire off in here. And it will tell me that I have a selection here and that it's only going to work against a certain number of records, or I don't have a selection and everything will be modified when I do this. So again, looking at getting some feedback back to us, make it a little bit easier to do, easier to work with. I'm going to cancel that out. It does give you now that additional feedback on whether you've got one or two parcels on there, or so for example, and I know this is going to do it. If I go and do a export feature, I'm still saving my project, aren't I? Let's let that finish. I forgot to turn that off. So I have on here, and then I've done this on most of my newer projects. There's an option to save a backup of your project. And there's also an option to save the edits when you do that. In this case, I've got that set up. So every couple of minutes, it's going to save my project. And when it does, it's going to interrupt me on here while it saves it on here. Sorry, I need to go and wait here until this finishes on here. Let me go and move on a little bit. Let's see while this is going and working on here. Nope. I'm impatient. I may just go in and stop this. I am impatient. So I'm going to go and just end this task. Go in here and go back again. Did I miss any questions or anything in the chat window, Christopher?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So what, which one was I in? I don't even know which one was I in. I don't think this is where I was.
No, you were in a demo.
Yeah, yeah. The problem is I have a couple demos in here, so I'm pretty sure that this is a version 5. Nope, this is a version 3. Sorry. Yeah, go get out of here. Sorry. That wasn't it. Here it is. There it is. All right. I want to show a couple more things here.
Frank, we do have a unrelated question in the chat.
Okay.
Where do you change your default setting for Arcade versus Python code?
I was not aware that you can do that now. Let's look and see in the options. Maybe geoprocessing. I don't know. Again, I wasn't aware that you could actually change it, the default settings on here. Lisa, are you sure you can do that? I didn't think we could. I think they still give us the standard of using Python instead of everything else. All right. Let me go back in here. So I was at the, Lisa, it's one of those questions that have been out there for a while. An enhancement, yes, please put it up as an idea. I would love, I will vote that thing up all day. I will get as many people as I can to vote it up. They need to have the ability to go and set a default code that you use when you're doing everything from calculations to everything in here. And that would be nice. All right, let me start editing again. I was talking about the filter selection, and so that if you have something filtered, if I have some lines filtered in here, and I go in here and I say, let's go and export this out, it will tell me. There you go. It has a selection so that there's only going to be 8 of them exported out, not all of them. And when I go and clear off my selection, all right, and then do it, it will tell me that in fact I have no selection. And well, I guess it doesn't do it with that, but it will go and export everything out. Again, nice usability enhancement going on here. The next thing I wanted to do is talk about, as it relates to the parcel fabric, there is some new enhancements in the merge points functionality. merge points functionality is for within the parcel fabric, every line has a point on the end of it. And the lines, often you'll wind up with small points, small lines in here with little points in here. And so what the merge points allows you to do is go and enhance that. And you'll notice if you've used merge points on 2.9, which by the way is a great tool inside the parcel fabric, how much faster this just chose which ones and showed me where it was going to go and what it was going to do. And the fact that it now numbers the points. So I can say, if I go to 2, it will automatically and very quickly show me what the new realignment and what that's going to look like when it's in there. All right. That's a nice improvement to an already nice tool here with this merge points on here.
Frank,
yes.
do you see the question or do you want me to read it?
Yeah. The question is, what issues, if any, have you seen that are not good? The biggest one is the fact that the code base has changed and that these aren't interchangeable. The fact that once I go and save it in 3.0, if somebody else wants to open that up, they have to have 3. They can't use ArcGIS Pro 2.x on. That's the biggest downside I see on here. And the other enhancements that I've seen, they've done a great job, and we gave them feedback during all the alpha and beta testing, and they fixed everything that we were complaining about. So I haven't seen any enhancements that are not good. However, I have seen where you just want to be aware that in fact that structure changed, and be careful if you just migrate over. You might save something that you can't go back and read with an earlier version. Again, the best tip is go ahead and create a copy of it in 2, name it as 2, and then open it up and save it in 3 and name it that way. So Mark just asked me, when I did this, I did a merge points here. All right, merge points, there it is. And I'm saying, go ahead and merge them over to 1 here. And when I merge it, what happens is that line there disappears. The point disappears on there. And if you note, the COGO was not updated in here. So that's one of the things you need to be aware of with merge points, is that it's really used to go and eliminate small little problem points. It's not meant to do major enhancements in here. For example, I could do merge points here and take that 12 out, and it will go and move everything that's connected to those points and move them. You want to make sure, because it does not change the COGO in there. It really is used for cleaning things up more than anything else. But it is for those of us that are dealing with excessive vertices that have come in through old data structures, whether it be ArcMap parcel fabric or whether it's densified curves and dealing with topology and all the problems that topology introduces in here. Yeah, things like this. Again, I need to watch out and make sure that there's things in there. This isn't a bad data set on here, but it does allow you to go and clean this up a lot more, and it is faster than what it was before.
Frank, Angie wants to know, when you're editing in 3, do you have to delete the tax lines if you reconfigure parcels?
Okay, it's actually a good point. Thank you, Angie. Perfect timing on here. So let's go and turn this sable off, because I wanted to introduce a new concept here. So one of the enhancements that are on here is that if I have a parcel, let's make sure my parcels are selectable. I am editing, make sure my parcels are selectable. Everything is turned on, good. Just turn this off. So if I wanted to go and reconfigure a parcel, all right, I wanted to reconfigure a parcel. The correct workflow for this is I would, again, you want to remember that everything's connected to everything else. So you want to be aware of that. I would go and take this and I would then make sure that I have a record on here. So I would go to my manage and say, get my record for the parcel that I have selected, and I would make it active. Again, an active record will trace everything that's on here and allow us to go and work on the lines, the points, the polygons, everything that's in here. To the point where if I say, go ahead and select everything in my active record and go in here, this is an old data set. This might have a map on here. So I have 4 lines in here. I have 1 point in here. I have all of those on here. So there's a couple of things that we can use when we want to go and do this. For example, one is shrink to seed. What the shrink to seed does is it takes the parcel from my current record and shrinks it down. I can now go in here and let's just go and show here. Let's just show only my current record here, only my active record here. So I can go in here and reconfigure this parcel. I can go in here and take new lines in here and say, okay, this line is actually supposed to be like this. All right. I could go in here and I could say, well, that line is actually that one. That line is gone now. That needs to go. All right. So I can create a new configuration for it. But I always want to watch out and make sure that I'm aware everything is connected to everything else. So when I go and build this, I can build it this way. That's not the best way to go and do this, though. All right, let it go and build. Let's turn everything else on. There it is. I've created a gap in here. Rather, if I wish to reconfigure a parcel and it's connected to another parcel, all right, what I would do is I would select both parcels and I would create a new record. All right, I would create a new record in here. And then, now what create a new record does, it gave me a new record. I'm going to copy the lines to my tax parcels, Angie, just so you're watching. And it will take my parcels, reduce them to seeds, and take my lines and only show me my lines. Now I can go in here and take these 2 lines. All right, I can delete them and I can reconfigure where my new boundary line between them is. And again, I could split this if I wanted to. And then I can say, go ahead and rebuild this. And what this will do is it will rebuild these 2 parcels, these 2 polygons, with the new reconfigured line in between them. So you just want to be aware that the lines are all associated with records. So if you go in there and delete lines, you really want to make sure you have that active record on and it's selected when you go to do it, when you go to build this. All right. So it's not just, wow, you can go in and delete it, but you want to be aware how to do it. The other thing I wanted to show, and I'm going to do this offhand, I'm going to go and go to this quality here and say, shrink to seed. So it will shrink this one to seed. All right. Now I'm going to go and unselect that and delete it. And now I'm going to say, reconstruct this. All right. From the seeds that I have here. Now that's magical. That is in 3.0. It goes and looks not just for the lines that are part of the record, because this line here was never part of the record that I was on, but The Reconstruct from seeds allows you to take a seed and expands it out until it intersects existing lines, even if those lines are associated with different records. So that is a new tool. It's one I wasn't sure how often I would use it, but when you're reconstructing parcels, it actually is a nice tool. And I like this enhancement. It's a really, really good enhancement on here. So I have a new record that I built for this right here. Let me show you one of the really nice ones I like over here. So let me go and clear my selection. And now let me start building a new parcel over here. Oh, look at this. The first thing it does is it says, you are outside of your record extent. You're building someplace other than what you were. So what this new enhancement does is one of the things that often happens is you'll set a record, you'll be building on it, and then you'll move over to another one and you'll start editing without creating a new record. This goes and warns you and says, oh, wait a minute, you're outside the extent of your existing record. Do you want to do this? You can still do this and it will extend the record to include this new, but it will also warn you and say, maybe you need to start and create a new record for this new parcel because it's geographically dispersed from your existing one. This is a really, really nice enhancement on here. A couple of other things in here. If we go to catalog and we go to our database, if we actually go to the parcel fabric itself, in the manage, it actually has upgrade data set. So we can upgrade it right there from manage on there. We don't have to go and call and play that geoprocessing and call that exclusively. We can do it from here. That's one of the nice ones. The other nice one that they have in here is in geoprocessing. We now have update COGO as a geoprocessing tool. Update COGO geoprocessing tool goes and it will work against either a selection or the entire data set and calculate the COGO values for your data set here. You tell it what feature class you want to go. I don't want to do historic here. And you tell it whether or not you want to overwrite the distance, whether you want to overwrite the directions. It allows you to put scale in here and direction, whether or not there's an offset stored on an attribute field or whether you want to just leave it at 0. This is a nice enhancement here on here. So because a lot of us are doing migrations, we're bringing in and creating new lines on here, and we just want to go and calc the update COGO. So it has from geometry coded on there, it automatically go and mark the COGO type as from geometry. All right, before I leave, there is another question. Elise, please confirm that this is still Parcel Fabric version 5, so no need to update existing fabric. Yes, that's correct. This is in fact, that's the reason why the update COGO was not available. If I go in here, go to my Parcel Fabric, it is version 5, which is compatible with 2.9 and 3.0. And on the server side, 10.9.1 and 11.0, so that when I go to manage, updates not enabled because it's already updated. If I were to pull in a different one, it would then be enabled and allow me to go and update it. Yeah. So yeah, that's correct, Lisa. Okay. Any other questions on here? As you can tell, there's a lot in here. But the big thing to remember is that, like with many things, with this one, it's an all-in commitment. There's some great things in here, but you want to make sure that you understand the downsides, that if you go and transition into 3, you can't open them in 2 anymore. And you want to make sure that if you're sharing projects, you're sharing data structures, that everybody else is at that same level. All right. Thanks. I hope that everybody enjoyed this, and we will see you next time. Thank you. Thanks for attending, and we hope you enjoyed this workshop. If you have questions, would like some more details about anything we discussed during this workshop, or if you or anyone at your organization would like information about training, support, or ways in which we can help you with your GIS needs, please contact me at frank@pandaconsulting.com or call me at 561-691-3277, and we can discuss how we can help you with your needs.